Before we begin, make sure to subscribe, like this video, and share your thoughts in the comments. This story affects every American, every family, and possibly the future of the world. Now let's get straight to it. Tonight, the world is holding its breath. The United States and Israel have launched powerful airstrikes on Iran. Fighter jets roared across the skies, missiles hit key targets, and at the center of it all stands President Donald Trump, backing the joint attack and sending a message that is shaking global politics. This is not a warning. This is not a drill. This is action. President Trump did not stop at supporting the strikes. He went further. He called on the Iranian people to rise up and take over your government. Those words are not small. They are not soft. They signal something much bigger than a simple military move. They point toward regime change. Iran's leadership is furious. They are calling this an act of aggression. They say this crosses a red line. Across the Middle East, alarms are ringing. Oil prices are jumping. Allies are nervous. Enemies are watching closely. Back here at home, Americans are asking one simple question. Are we now at the edge of another major war? Let's break this down clearly. The strikes were coordinated between the United States and Israel. Military officials say they targeted sites connected to Iran's military operations. Some reports suggest weapons, facilities, and strategic command centers were hit. Supporters of the move say it was necessary. They argue Iran has been building dangerous capabilities and supporting armed groups across the region. They say waiting would have been more dangerous than acting. But critics in Washington are raising serious concerns. They are asking, was Congress consulted? Was this action approved? Some lawmakers say this may be unconstitutional if there was no direct authorization. They warned that rushing into conflict without clear approval could repeat mistakes from the past. The American people remember Iraq. They remember Afghanistan. Long wars, heavy costs, lives lost, trillions spent. Now fear is rising again. Could this strike pull the United States into another endless conflict? President Donald Trump is standing firm. He says strength is the only language Iran understands. He says peace comes through power. And he believes this bold move sends a clear signal that the United States will not tolerate threats. Israeli leaders are also defending the strikes. They say Iran poses an immediate danger to their security. For years, Israel has warned about Iran's growing influence and military reach. Now, they say action was unavoidable. But Iran's leadership is promising a response. They say retaliation is coming. That word alone is enough to shake global markets. If Iran strikes back at US forces or Israeli cities, the situation could explode overnight. This is how regional wars begin. One strike, then another. Then alliances are pulled in. The Middle East has seen this pattern before. The world knows how fast it can spiral. Families in the region are scared. Civilians worry about air raid sirens. Parents fear for their children. No one wants to see innocent lives caught in the middle. In Washington, the debate is growing louder. Some lawmakers support the president completely. They say he is protecting American interests. They say showing weakness would invite more danger. Others are deeply alarmed. They argue that urging the Iranian people to overthrow their government crosses a serious line. Regime change is not a small goal. It often leads to chaos, power struggles, and years of instability. Experts are warning about unintended consequences. What if hardline factions in Iran gain more power? What if regional militias attack US troops stationed nearby? What if oil routes are blocked? Every move in this crisis carries risk. Every decision could shape the next decade, and ordinary Americans are watching closely. They're asking how this will affect gas prices. They're asking if their sons and daughters in uniform could be sent into danger. This is no longer a distant issue. It feels close to home. Around the world, global leaders are reacting fast. Some are calling for calm, others are choosing sides quietly. Diplomatic phones are ringing non-stop. Emergency meetings are taking place behind closed doors. The United Nations is urging restraint. European allies are asking for dialogue instead of bombs. But in moments like this, words often struggle to compete with explosions. President Trump's call for the Iranian people to take over your government is being heard far beyond Tehran. Some see it as support for freedom. Others see it as direct interference in another nation's sovereignty. And that difference in perspective matters. If Iran chooses a strong military response, American bases in the region could become targets. Israeli cities could face missile attacks. Shipping lanes in the Persian Gulf could be disrupted. The fear is real. The anger is real. The uncertainty is real. The question now is simple but heavy. Is this a limited strike meant to send a message? Or is this the opening chapter of something far bigger? Now the focus turns to what happens next. Iran's leaders are meeting behind closed doors. Military commanders are studying maps. Intelligence teams are tracking every movement in the skies and on the ground. The promise of retaliation is not just talk. It is a warning. President Donald Trump says America is ready for any response. He says the United States will defend its troops and its allies without hesitation. He says this is about strength, about preventing a greater threat before it grows. But history teaches hard lessons. When nations exchange strikes, pride becomes involved. Once pride enters the battlefield, stepping back becomes harder. Every side wants to show power. Every side fears looking weak. American troops stationed across the Middle East are now on high alert. Bases are tightening security. Families of service members are watching the news with worry in their hearts. They know how quickly tensions can turn into deployment orders. This moment feels heavy because it is heavy. One wrong move, one miscalculation, could set off a chain reaction that no one can easily stop. Inside the United States, the political divide is widening. Some leaders praise President Trump's decision. They say this proves America will never back down. They argue that strong action prevents future attacks and keeps enemies guessing. Others say this move risks dragging the nation into another open-ended war. They question whether the strikes were fully justified. They ask whether the American people were prepared for such a serious step. Legal scholars are now debating whether this action required clear approval from Congress. The Constitution gives Congress the power to declare war. Critics argue that bypassing that step sets a dangerous precedent. On the streets and online, emotions are running high. Fear mixes with anger. Some Americans worry about rising gas prices. Others fear cyber attacks. Many simply want stability. This is not just foreign policy. It is personal. It touches wallets, safety, and the future of young men and women who wear the uniform. Beyond Washington, the global stage is shifting. Russia is watching carefully. China is calculating its next move. European allies are urging restraint and calling for urgent talks. The Middle East itself is a web of alliances and rivalries. One strike in Iran does not stay inside Iran. Armed groups in neighboring countries could respond. Shipping lanes through vital waters could face disruption. Oil markets could shake even more. President Trump's call for Iranians to take over your government is echoing inside the country. Some Iranians who oppose their leadership may hear hope. Others may see it as foreign interference. That message could inflame tensions even further. Regime change is a powerful phrase. It suggests not just a military goal, but a political transformation. And political transformations are rarely simple. They often come with chaos before clarity. The world now waits to see whether this remains a limited military strike or becomes the spark that lights a wider regional fire. Military experts say escalation can happen in stages. First, targeted strikes, then retaliation, then expanded operations. Before long, multiple countries are involved, and the original goal becomes harder to define. President Trump insists this action is about deterrence. He says it is meant to stop threats before they become disasters. He frames it as decisive leadership. But critics warn that Iran has many ways to respond. They could target American interests indirectly. They could use cyber warfare. They could activate allied militias in nearby countries. Every scenario carries risk. At home, families are glued to their televisions and phones. Veterans remember past conflicts. Younger generations wonder if they will witness another long war unfold in real time. Markets react. Airlines adjust routes. Energy analysts predict possible price spikes. Even those far from the battlefield feel the tremors. This is how global crises move. They start with a strike, but they ripple across economies and communities worldwide. So where does this leave us tonight? The United States and Israel have taken direct military action against Iran. President Donald Trump has openly backed the strikes and called for the Iranian people to change their government. Iran has vowed to respond. The debate in Washington is fierce. The world is tense. The next hours and days are critical. Will Iran retaliate quickly, or will it pause and calculate? Will diplomacy step in before missiles fly again? Will Congress demand more oversight? These are not abstract questions. They are urgent and real. The fear people feel is understandable. The anger many express is understandable. War is never simple. It never unfolds exactly as planned. What is certain is this: the stakes are high, the region is fragile, and the decisions made now could shake global security for years. Stay informed. Stay engaged. This story is still developing, and every update matters. The world is watching, and history may be unfolding in front of us.